Welcome back to Central Valley Talk. I'm Mike Scott. We're having fun today. We're going to talk about, a real fun subject right now, taxes. All the way from Modesto today, Juan Montes. His company is TheTaxProblemcom. He has offices in Modesto and San Jose. But guess what? He can take care of you no matter where you are in the U.S. Because when you're online, you can do that kind of thing, right?
That's right.
Juan, thank you for coming down today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. What do you want people to know about your company?
Well, TheTaxProblemcom helps people deal with tax problems, as the name specifies. In America, there are about 12 million people who have a federal tax lien filed against them by the IRS. And those are the people where it's moved far enough along that the IRS feels they have to go to that extent. So there are actually a lot more than 12 million who have a federal tax issue they need to fix. And that's just at the federal level. You still have the states, all the state tax authorities, and in California, for example, we have the Franchise Tax Board, Board of Equalization, Employment Development Department, and those are the four major ones here in California. Then even at the county level, you have different taxes for businesses, and all of them need some sort of resolution.
I want to dig a little deeper into this, the tax lien thing. 12 million federal tax liens. So what does that mean? The IRS is saying to 12 million people, you owe us money, and since you're not paying us, we're slapping a lien on you.
That is correct. So what it is initially you have to file a tax return, and if you owe, you pay. And then some people just don't file a tax return. So the IRS goes ahead and prepares a tax return for you that always results in liability. From there, they send you a series of letters where they call them soft letters, where they're nicely reminding you that you have a debt and that you should take care of it as soon as possible. They all have a deadline. After the deadline, the computer system automatically spits out the next letter. And it moves
Not
on.
so soft, right?
Not so soft. And
pay now.
Pay now. It moves down the line to where they get to the point that they actually file a lien at the county against you to put all creditors on notice so that they could essentially attach assets.
So if you have a job, the IRS could take some of the money from your paycheck to pay off that lien.
That is correct. They could garnish your wages. They could levy your bank account, so they could, without your permission, go in there and take funds out of your bank account. And they can actually seize your property and sell it as well. Wow. Those are the more extreme cases, but that's also something they can do.
Yeah. Now, if those 12 million people were smart, they would have called you.
That's right.
And stayed out of that mess, right?
That's correct.
No, at what point in the process do people come to you?
You know, it really depends on people's motivations. Some people don't wait for the tax lien, and they're on the phone the moment they get a notice because they want to take care of it. I would say a big factor on when people decide to resolve it is how did they get into the situation to begin with. Sometimes it's because a mistake was made somewhere down the line. They were audited, there was an adverse result, and now they have a problem to contend with. Sometimes there are some people who just didn't file for numerous years for various reasons, and those are the clients that I would say are a little less inclined to take action and actually correct the problem. And then there are some people who filed their returns, just couldn't afford to pay what the debt was, and those people are also looking for a way to resolve the situation and are a little more motivated than those who've never filed a tax return to begin with.
So you're kind of like a lawyer for people with tax problems.
That's right. So technically the IRS says or the U.S. Treasury says they have not given me a license to practice law. They've given me full representation rights. So I can represent any taxpayer before the authorities in every level of the negotiation except trial in U.S. tax court. So what that means is, first of all, about 99% of cases never go to U.S. tax court. And what I do is
arbitration
there are actually a lot of programs, like common terms people may have heard: offer and compromise, part pay installment agreement, innocent spouse relief, and then there's something called currently not collectible status, which means the IRS stops collection activities. So all of these different things help people, one way or another, relieve themselves of that liability. Funny you mentioned the legal aspect of it. Is I'm actually a law school graduate, and I sat for the July bar, and on November 21st was notified that I was one of the 49% people who passed the bar exam.
All right. Well, that's a tough test, isn't it?
Yeah, this year, or this specific bar had the lowest pass rate in 10 years. Only 49% of takers passed it.
Wow. So are you going to take that now and continue doing what you're doing, or what will that allow you to do that you couldn't do before?
All it would allow me to do that I couldn't do before is going to U.S. tax court. But what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to continue with this business, TheTaxProblemcom, continue helping people. And one thing I'm doing is I'm having seminars. I'm actually having a seminar on December 18th,
Okay.
Thursday at 6 p.m. in my office. I've sent out a lot of invitations, and I actually received a few calls this morning, people RSVPing. What I'm going to do there is I'm going to describe the various programs that exist, and then I'm going to let the people attending know what the requirements are to qualify, what the criteria is, and give them examples of some case studies of prior resolutions. So just to arm with people with information so that they start thinking about what options they have. For example, offering compromise. The way you qualify for that is what the IRS is looking for is they're not really looking into how you got into the problem to begin with. What they're looking is what is your ability to pay today and going forward. And what that means is let's take someone who has a union job or is a teacher. Their future salary is very predictable because it's based on a union contract. So it'd be very easy for the IRS to know what they're going to earn over the next 3 to 5 years. And then from there, there's something called financial standards, which are deductions you take from income. And after you take all of those deductions, you're left with what's called disposable income, which is your ability to pay. And for someone like a teacher, if they have no disposable income and they don't own a home that has a lot of equity in it, they don't have a bunch of assets, they look at all of the equity and any assets you may own. So if there aren't assets with equity and it appears that the income isn't there to pay back the debt, that's a prime candidate for an offer in compromise to have the debt forgiven for what they say pennies on the dollar.
So they're not out to bankrupt you.
No.
They want to work with you to try to let you live, but also pay back what you owe.
Correct.
If possible.
Yeah, that's a big misconception. It's scary to get a letter from the IRS and say you owe me $146,000, but they aren't here to bankrupt you. And even if you have a home and there is some equity, there's a homestead exemption, and there's a few things where you could still work within the system to get rid of this debt. The catch with that is you need to be up to date with your taxes when you submit an offer. What that means is you filed all previous tax returns. If you're self-employed, you've paid your estimated tax payments. And then the second part is once approved, you can't default in any way for the next 5 years. If you do, that tax debt returns along with penalties, interest, and everything else that had gone away.
Gotcha. Does everybody who comes to you have a problem, or are there people that have you do their taxes so they don't get into a problem?
Good question. Actually, I've been fortunate that I've been preparing taxes for 8 years. There have been a couple of audits, but that's just a random lottery thing. And there isn't a single client of mine who has had an adverse audit result. And there isn't a single client who has any tax debt of people whose taxes I've been preparing for the last 8 years.
Well, that says a lot about your business right there. Yeah. All right. Juan, how can folks reach you? I know your office is in Modesto, right?
Correct. I have an office in Modesto and I have an office in San Jose. All of my contact information is on my website, www.TheTaxProblemcom, and my phone number is 408-888-5615 in the San Jose area, and in the Modesto area, 209-230-5166. Email is Juan, Juan, at TheTaxProblemcom, real easy. And I take office visits by appointment, and my license, actually, let me touch on the licensing issue so people know if they have an issue and they need to look for someone. There are only 3 people who have the authority to represent taxpayers before the IRS. That is an attorney, a certified public accountant, or an enrolled agent. The license I currently have is an enrolled agent license. So attorneys and CPAs are licensed at the state level, in this case California, but enrolled agents are licensed at the federal level by the U.S. Treasury. And enrolled agents like myself can actually practice across all 50 states. So I can have clients in any state in the country and help them. And I've actually had clients in Nevada and Texas so far.
Well, because we're on the internet here, our signal goes out everywhere, so maybe you'll be getting some new clients. Juan, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. TheTaxProblemcom, and you heard about it right here on Central Valley Talk.